Hey, everyone, Victoria Haffer here, and welcome to Break Free and Thrive, Breaking the Addiction and Control Cycle Masterclass. So excited that everybody's here. And if you haven't already, I would suggest that you get a piece of paper or a notebook, maybe a journal and a pen, and maybe something to drink. And I'm just going to start out a little bit of why I am so passionate about doing this work, about teaching women how to heal from the addiction control trauma loop. And that has become surprise, surprise, because surprise, surprise, surprise. I'm sure you won't be surprised that um, I was challenged with that for years, for decades, for sure. Grew up in a dysfunctional family. My parents got divorced when I was 6, so I was kind of forced to be put into that place of the taking care of everybody, right? So, um, I had all my needs met, although my dad wasn't really around that much. He was an alcoholic. My mom was emotionally unavailable. And I had access. There were a lot of drugs and alcohol and just a lot of dysfunction and lots of toxicity as I grew up. So often I just didn't feel safe. Right. So how did that show up? How does that show up now? How did that show up now for me as an adult? Well, that might look like some of the cycles that we will be talking about in just a moment, but often not feeling safe in the body. I battled with chronic fatigue, leaky gut, all kinds of autoimmune issues, um, many addictions myself. I went through different cycles, as Tommy Rosen calls it. It's like a game of whack-a-mole when we work with often with addiction. It's one you think you got one under control, and then another one pops up. And so at a younger age, I food my relationship with food was not very healthy. I battled with an eating disorder for many years. I healed myself from that. And then I moved into, for almost 2 decades, of a love and sex addiction, constantly looking for love in all the wrong places, and lots of toxic relationships. And then lastly, my big addiction, lack of quality relationship, was with money, spending, saving, all of those things, debt, lots of debt, and bankruptcy, credit card counseling. And so basically, often just looking outside of myself for things to kind of fill the void, fill the pain. Um, and so I spent, my entire adult life really working on myself and taking, oh my God, loads of trainings and certifications. I mean, I have my master's is in human physiology, and I have taken hundreds and thousands of hours of trainings around healing mind, body, soul. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, trauma support specialist, yoga therapist, and meditation teacher as well. I have all kinds of trainings with animals and communication. I'm a Reiki master teacher, a healing touch for animals. And again, it goes on and on and on. So I was, knowledge is power for sure, but you know what's more powerful? Experience, and taking all the information that you have and then putting it into action. So how many of you collect information? How many of you know a lot about trauma and all of these things? As we go through the presentation, you might be shaking your head a lot. But usually what I find the missing piece to all of it is the lack of integrating it into ourselves and into the day to day. And maybe you are doing some of that again, which this isn't about making you wrong or doing any of those things. This is really about cultivating some awareness around where you're at and how I possibly can support you in moving forward and all of that good stuff. So our agenda for today is, number one, to understand the addiction and control cycle, the importance of sovereignty and self-trust in our healing. We also will be going through some really powerful exercises that can support you in your healing and stepping into your true freedom. And we'll finish up with some actionable steps to break free and thrive. Now, I will be, in full disclosure, at the end of the presentation, I will be dropping 2 slides up on the screen that to share with you the most amazing program that I have given birth to. And I'm hoping that you might be maybe one of my founding members for the program. So it's going to be a no-brainer for you to choose it. So we'll get there at the end. And then after that, there would there would be time for Q&A. If you're watching this on the replay, then sorry, I won't be here for the Q&A. However, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me, right? Email me, or a lot of you have my cell phone, so feel free to text me. I'm always here for you. So what is addiction and control? And, how do we define it, really? So addiction is anything we turn to for comfort or escape. And I also like to say that addiction is really anything that we consistently take part in, typically daily, that creates negative consequences in our life. So by taking part in the behavior, the habit, or the pattern over and over again, it literally creates a negative consequence in your life. That would be the definition of addiction. And then typically addiction, often the control loop, right, can connect to the addiction. Control is the illusion of how we try to create safety. So again, for myself, growing up as a small child, as a young child, not often feeling safe and not feeling like I had control over my environment. Right. So then a lot of times what we can create things like, OCD around things, checking the stove over and over again, checking out, and just feeling like, as a child, you didn't have control, but now as an adult, now what are the habits and the patterns and the behaviors that you're taking part in on a regular basis that may not be serving you? So again, this is all about just being in awareness without judgment. So here are some of the common addiction trauma control cycles, right, that you might be aware of or familiar with, that you might resonate with. Now, I am covering a lot of, because there's, if we look at addiction, we just, think of the word addiction. A lot of times people think, off the cuff, that addiction is falling down drunk, or, you're not able to function in your day-to-day, shooting up in an alley. But the truth is, humanity, there is a pandemic, right, of addiction that's running rampant through the country, and I'm sure in many other countries as well. And so the 6 main areas of addiction, number 1 is drugs, right? Of course, drugs. But within that category, it's not just quote unquote, drugs that you might be getting on the street, marijuana. And I know a lot of states it's legal, or if you're using it for medicinal purposes, maybe psychedelics, things like that, and or prescription medication. I don't have the stats on me, but there's like 1 trillion people who are addicted to medication that has been prescribed by their doctor, right? I mean, not to get into a whole thing here, but Western medicine really doesn't typically have your back, right? They're not typically trying to get you off. It's like, oh, you have this one addiction. Oh, great. Take this other drug to help you get off this, talk about whack-a-mole, right? So I'm going to substitute one addiction for another addiction, right? And some of the common addictions, so alcohol, drugs, relationships, codependency, sex, electronics, the phone, the scrolling, right? Food. That's 5. I always forget the 6th one. Anyways, there's a lot. Workaholism, right? So adrenaline or caffeine dependency. So think about, these are the cycles. These are the loops. I always think of it as like the hamster wheel, right? Of us, how often do we get onto the wheel, or we go down the rabbit hole, and then we don't know how to get off or get out. And so, for example, if you do have some unresolved trauma sitting in your field, how it can show up is you not being able to relax, you not being able to sleep at night, right? So it affects your adrenals. And some people actually get addicted to that adrenaline high. And so if you're constantly in that state of like fight or flight, then your little adrenals that sit on top of your kidneys are constantly, right, producing all those stress hormones, right? Adrenaline and cortisol, which by the way, too much cortisol in your body can, can manifest as excess body fat, like on your belly fat. And it's going to affect your sleep as well, right? So what happens is we don't sleep well, we wake up, we don't feel good, and then we start the cycle all over again. Lots of caffeine, lots of sugar, lots of processed foods, right? Lots of lights, lots of the blue lights from the electronics, which messes with your melatonin levels, right? And your pituitary gland. And then you get into bed and it's like you're tired and wired, and then it starts all over again. That is an example of an addiction trauma control cycle. Workaholism. I know for myself when I was younger and I was single, and by the way, I was single for over 25 years, again, looking for love in all the wrong places, lots of relationships, lots of boyfriends, but always thinking that someone, that perfect man was going to show up and make everything great for me. Again, always looking outside myself. But in the meantime, because I didn't want to deal with my emotions and my numbness and all the ways I did, I would be a workaholic. I worked 50, 60, sometimes 70 hours a week, right? And then that can tap into that perfectionism role cycle that we might get into. Also, external validation and people pleasing, known as fawning, and the fight, flight, freeze, fawning cycle of how we show up in that high stress world, right? So constantly looking for validation outside of ourselves, right? Having to ask a lot of different people for opinions, right? Not trusting your own inner knowing, right? And the truth is that all of this stems from a disconnection from ourself, from our true self. Who am I, right? A multidimensional being, right? Who chose to incarnate into this lifetime, right? You are a powerful sovereign being, and you hold all the wisdom in your body that you'll ever need. But again, we've bought, what stories have we bought as little girls or little boys growing up in that, always thinking that other people might know better than we do. And then we just play in that psychologically addictive program of thinking that I don't know what I need. And then you allow for teachers and your parents and your grandparents and the pastor and the doctors that they all know what's best for you, when truly that is not true. So here are some common trauma patterns that you might resonate with. Constant worry or overthinking. So negative self-talk, constantly worrying or overthinking, is an addiction. It truly is. Just think about it. If you're doing it all the time, like, it's like I've heard this statement, the meme, worry is like praying for something bad to happen. Like, how often are we doing that? Now, in reality, there are three aspects of the mind, right? So you have the positive mind, the negative mind, and the neutral mind. So the positive mind is the part of the mind that is, maybe you see the glass is half full instead of half empty. You give people the benefit of the doubt, once or twice. You are looking for the silver lining, and that's the positive mind. The negative mind it's not necessarily a bad thing. We kind of think of the negative mind, oh, it's so bad and it's so low frequency, but it really isn't. It's really our discerning mind. It's the part of our mind that really teaches us or tells us to say, wait a minute, this sounds like it's too good to be true, because maybe it is too good to be true, or you're going home late from work and you're in the, it's late and you're in the parking lot and, you just feel a little creepy energy and you start moving a little quicker to get to your car, right? So the negative mind isn't a bad thing. It's just that you don't want to live there, right? And then of course we have the neutral mind, which is the, objective, impartial, the silent witness, our ability to be able to step outside of our situation, the relationship, the argument, the trigger, and see it, right, from an interesting point of view. Yes. So the truth is, when you think negative about yourself, which, so this is what they say. They say that on average, we think about 50,000 thoughts a day. The majority of them are negative, and the majority of them are the same thoughts you thought yesterday. So I want you to just, if you're not familiar with the truth, the from quantum physics, we talk about the fact that our words, our thoughts, our actions, and our belief systems create our reality. So let's go back to our thought. A thought is energy. If you're constantly thinking negative things about yourself or about others, right, it's going to have an impact on your physical body. Your emotional body has an impact on your physical body, right? So if we compare Western medicine to Eastern medicine, Western medicine is, traditional medicine. You go to the doctor, they say, what's wrong? And you give them the symptoms. And then what do? They give you typically, again, not all doctors, but majority of doctors will say, well, I'm going to give you a prescription for this symptom. You have a headache, take an aspirin. And so in Eastern medicine, Ayurvedic medicine and traditional Chinese medicine, they have a different approach. We have a different approach. We want to look at, why do you have a headache? Right? Why? Do you need an adjustment at your atlas? Right? Are you grinding your teeth at night? Are you dehydrated? Yeah, see the difference? So when you're constantly thinking, overthinking, over processing, over worrying, all these things that so many of us are addicted to, and that pattern, it literally starts to change the molecular structure of your cells, right? Your water, we're made up of 2/3 water, right? Blood, right? Plasma. And you can literally start to change, and you can affect your DNA. Anyways, there's a whole bunch of things of what negative self-talk and worrying does, which is, again, a common trauma pattern. Feeling exhausted despite doing all the things, right? Exhaustion. That is very common with people who are givers, constantly giving, not feeling worthy to receive, always putting everybody else first, right? Your receiving channels are broken. The good news is we can fix them, right? But you have to be in that space of choosing you, right? You got to come first. I don't care who or what's going on, right? If you've got kids, if you've got, whatever, you're taking care of your parents, your coworkers, all of it. Yeah, you're going to get there. However, if you are not filling you up, you are going to do everything half-assed. Would you agree? I don't think anyone can disagree with me on that one, right? Also, struggling with self-trust or decision-making, constantly doubting yourself, right? And not thinking that you know the right thing to do. And another common trauma pattern is overwhelm, doing overwhelm. And that is typically where, again, overwhelm is too much energy in the head and not enough energy into the rest of the body, right? So we will talk a little bit more about different practices that you can, bring into your day-to-day that will help to support you here. So these patterns can feel exhausting, and they're typically signs of underlying trauma and disconnection. The good news is they can be healed. The first step is recognizing them. And then the next is creating space for self-awareness and especially self-compassion. Okay, this is a good one. So you may want to take a screenshot of this one, right? Or jot down some notes. If you are watching the replay, guess what? You can hit the pause button and write stuff down if you like. So 7 signs that you may be stuck in the trauma, addiction, control loop. Are you ready? Okay, number 1, you feel the need to stay busy all the time, right? Constant activity helps you avoid stillness, where uncomfortable emotions might surface, right? So you're a human doer instead of a human beer. Doing and being are very opposite ends. Again, you need both. Yeah, you have to do stuff. I'm not saying you should just be being all the time, but I want you to take a look at the ratio of being to doing on a daily basis. Yeah, I know. What's your ratio? 70% doing, 80% doing? Yeah. So the doing aspect is actually a part of it's kind of like the hustle culture, right? So the toxic, wounded, masculine aspect of us. And again, remember, for those of you who are hearing this for the first time, yin and yang energy, right? The symbol, the black and the white, that everything, everything has an opposite and equal reaction to the thing, the opposing, the polarity. So yang energy is the masculine energy. It doesn't mean male. It doesn't mean man. It doesn't mean, genitalia. It just means the energy behind it. So masculine is yang, and it's about giving. It's about doing, like putting energy out, versus yin energy is about the feminine energy, and that's the receiving energy. That's the being energy. Okay. Number 2, you fear losing control over situations or relationships. Where are all my control freaks at? Right? Well, I certainly am, and I'm working on it. Basically, I have a Facebook group called Control Freaks Anonymous. If you're not in there and you resonate with being a control freak, you may want to join us. So yeah, so how often are you trying to micromanage everything outside of you, your kids, your partner, even the way people do the dishes or the laundry, how someone folds the towel? That's a little control-ish, my friends. Again, no judgment, just awareness. Number 3, you seek external validation for your self-worth. You rely on other people's approval to feel good about yourself or your decisions. Right? Having to tell you how good you look, how great you are, how wonderful you did. Maybe if you're on social media a lot, likes and engagement and all that stuff. So how often are you looking outside of yourself to know that you are worthy? Number 4, you numb out with distractions. We have all done this before, right? Whether it's scrolling on social media, binge watching TV, or overeating. You use distractions to escape discomfort. So easy. That was totally me. And I'm not saying that I don't ever do that anymore, but however, I used to do that a lot. So again, just create the awareness, be in the space without blaming or shaming, right? Number 5, you feel disconnected from your emotions or your body. Again, that was me. So I've been teaching yoga and meditation for over 20 years. When I first started taking yoga classes, I honestly didn't understand what the teacher was saying when they would say things like, check in with your body, ask your body what it needs, where are you feeling this in your body? That's a huge sign that you are disassociating. It's a huge sign of trauma. Right? So often what happens with people and animals is if you've gone through a significant period of time where you didn't feel safe. Now, again, obviously, if you're physically abused, sexually abused, you have PTSD, maybe you were in the war, emotionally abused, all of those things for periods of time, this can show up as trauma. But it can also look like you had 7 other sisters and brothers and you just didn't get a lot of attention. Right? It doesn't necessarily, and you just didn't get your needs met. It doesn't mean that you were abused to actually go into some of these states of the chronic stress and going into a place of when you don't feel safe. It's something, I see this a lot when I work with horses, traumatized horses or in dogs, especially like if it's a wild Mustang and then they do whatever they do to break the horse, the horrible tools and techniques that hopefully things are changing. It makes me happy to see, a different mindset showing up in the animal world, realizing that they're magical, amazing, sentient, intelligent beings, right? And so we don't need to use some of those old school tools and techniques. But unfortunately, when that happens, a horse is, we call it checkout, disassociation. And so literally part of your soul. So as a small child, maybe you were married to a narcissist for many years and now you're out of the relationship, but that stuff may still be sitting in your field. And when you can't handle the emotion, when it's too intense and too strong, literally your soul will leave your body because it's just too painful to stay there, right? So often the numbing out and the distractions is something that you maybe even did when you were a child, right? But again, so being disconnected from your emotions or your body. I mean, the truth is we're not taught as children or even as adults how to manage our emotions, right? For mostly. If you had that as a child, that's awesome, right? Number 6, you experience reoccurring cycles of guilt and shame. Guilt and shame, some of the lowest vibrational frequency emotions that we can, experience, you know, just really feeling like you're not worthy, maybe not feeling like you have low self-esteem, not being able to make eye contact at different times. And so much of guilt and shame, sits in the second chakra. For those of you who know about the chakras, the second chakra is the chakra that helps. It's our sensuality, our sexuality. It's our really how we deal with emotions, right? And so much can sit in that space. And guess what? It's right where the gut is. So think about it. Do you experience gut issues? How's your microbiome, right? They say that 70-80% of our serotonin levels sit in the gut. So anyways, a whole other different webinar, right? And then number 7, you avoid vulnerability at all costs. So you put up walls, avoiding deep emotional connections, even with the people you trust, for fear of being hurt or judged. So it's sort of like, I know for me, I would get into relationships, and as soon as things started to go a little bit off, or we had like a little disagreement, I would be so scared that they were going to break up with me that I would always do it first. I would always be the one. I had to do the breaking up, or I would start fights because I was like, well, he's just going to leave anyways, just like my dad did, right? So it's these loops, these stories that we bought when we were little girls and little boys that we bring into to our adulthood, and that's how we start to see the world, right? The world's a dangerous place, right? I didn't feel safe. I didn't trust people. I didn't trust women. I didn't trust men. I didn't trust myself, right? So there are so many things of not trusting and trusting and trusting and trusting that for me to be vulnerable around people, it was like the death of me, truly. So just again, being aware, maybe all of these signs are, showing up for you. Maybe it's a few, but just make note, right? Make note. So let's talk a little bit about the root of the inner prison, because that's really what this is, right? So nobody's holding a gun to your head. And so much of this is really about the mind keeping us trapped, literally. You may have seen memes on social media about, people in their own prison, inside their own prison. And the key is like right there, but they're not using it, right? So it's sort of like, where are your blind spots? How often are we relying on external factors for validation, comfort, or security? And we disconnect from our true power. It's like you've seen the meme maybe before where there's a big elephant who has, something around his ankle, and it's like in the ground. And now, when it was a little elephant, he didn't know any better and he couldn't pull the stakes up. But now as a big adult elephant, it could easily pull the stake up out of the ground, but because it's just used to that situation and not having the freedom, then guess what? It just stays there, right? That poor elephant just stays there and doesn't realize that it knows it has any other choice or alternative, right? So let's talk a little bit about sovereignty. So this is the year of the dragon. Some of you might know that. 2024 in Chinese astrology is the year of the dragon. Dragon represents sovereignty, your authenticity, showing up as you are, truly you, right? It's sort of like where in your life are you in different aspects of your life? Maybe, maybe with your friends, you're being truly who you are, but maybe at work, it's a whole different story. Maybe with your family, you don't feel comfortable, being who you truly are, right? So a couple of things to ponder: living in alignment with your truth. So what is your truth? First of all, you got to know what your truth is, right? What are your values? What's important to you? Like, if money wasn't an issue and you had to get on a bandwagon for something, what would be the thing? Save the Mustangs, save the whales, right? Maybe you'd work with a rescue. Of course, I'm bringing up all animal things, but maybe it's something else. Maybe there's something else that's really important to you that you would be doing. So are you living in divine alignment with your truth, right? And who you are and what you're meant to be doing in this lifetime? Do you trust yourself above all external influences, right? The doctors, the teachers, the pastors, your parents, all of that stuff. Because ultimately, we hold all the wisdom that we'll ever need. And when you get into that space where you can really start to trust yourself, you'll know the right thing. It's called muscle testing, right? I teach my clients and my students how to do that. And it's really a place where you can ask yourself, right? Truth, is this for my highest and best? And, does it feel light? Light means yes, light is truth. Light is, it is what is, versus if it feels heavy, then that may mean it's a lie. It's not true for you. And letting go of control and embracing flow. So my favorite mantra: I trust and surrender, I trust and surrender, I trust and surrender, I trust and surrender, I trust and surrender. Because so many of us, again, lovingly, I say control freaks, we're kind of like, we get into a space where we're just like, my life is perfect, this is perfect, and this is how perfect is, and this is what it looks like. And if you really love me, this is what you would do, and this is what I'm going to do. And I chose to do this job, and I'm going to do this job for my whole entire life, so I can't change anything right now. Woo! That gets exhausting. One of my most powerful tools that I do every day, and I teach my clients and students, is to delete, destroy, and uncreate my relationship with everything and everyone. I'll say it again: delete, destroy, and uncreate your relationship with everything and everyone. Delete, destroy, and uncreate your relationship with yourself, with your friends, your family, your partner, your kids, your job, your relationship with money. So it's basically your relationship with everything: relationship with money, the relationship with your business, right? If you own your own business, if you're a badass entrepreneur, right? Delete, destroy, and uncreate all of that, right? Every single day. And so it allows for you to start with a clean slate. How many of us are bringing the past into the present moment in our relationships? Everyone, right? So again, taking the time to delete, destroy, and uncreate relationship with your partner. Again, if you have a partner, and stop, with your dog. Again, my specialty is anxious, fearful, reactive dogs and horses. And so supporting in the behavioral issues. So if you have a dog and the dog's always naughty, and you just assume your dog's always going to be naughty, and you're calling him a naughty dog, and that's all you do is say, you tell everybody what a naughty dog he is, then guess what? He's going to be Loki. And he's going to be naughty. So the truth here is that true freedom comes from within, not from external circumstances. Okay, key truth. Ding, 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 ding. Write this down, take a screenshot. Your presence, not your worry, creates transformation. So truly, truly, the key to all of this is to get out of the addiction trauma loop, right? Where we check out and go outside of ourselves for grasping for the dopamine hit, and get present with what really is. And not everyone, the thing is, you may not feel safe with that. So it's nice to have support from, a mental health coach like myself or, someone else that does the work with you, right? So they can hold space with you. Yeah, presence. All right, so I'm going to take you through a few exercises. Now I'm going to have you pause the presentation because I'm not going to obviously sit here and just wait. That if you're watching the replay, you're going to you can write these exercises down and then do them later. But this is the thing: later, someday, soon, when, my friends, when? When are all the bullshit excuses that you don't have enough time to take care of you? Someday, when I retire, this isn't a good time, all of the stuff. And remember, that is your ego not wanting you to change. Really important. So I do encourage you to do these exercises in the moment, real time, right now, if you can. Right? So exercise number 1, where are you seeking escapism? So write down, what do you turn to when you feel stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed? Right? What do you turn to? What's your go-to? Is it eating? Is it drinking some wine? Coffee, social media, controlling everything around you, workaholism? Again, I could go on and on and on. What's your go-to? And it may be more than one thing. Write it down. So when you're feeling stressed, anxious, and overwhelmed, and then you do that thing and whatever, you binge or you just numb out for a long period of time, how does it make you feel afterward? Joyful? Happy? Or are you in that self-loathing cycle again? Right? So again, this is the cycle of you feel like crap, you feel stressed, you're anxious, you're overwhelmed, and then you do the thing, you eat a bunch of cookies or you drink a bunch of coffee or you scroll for an hour and then nothing changed. All right? Again, be in that space. Feel free to pause this if you need a little more time. Okay. All right. Number 2, reconnecting with self. I'm going to invite you to come with me for a short little guided meditation. And I invite you to either lay down or sit up nice and tall in a chair. Close your eyes. Place your hand over your heart, one hand or both hands. Take a few long, slow, deep breaths. Get into your body. Breathe deep into every cell, every fiber, every nerve ending of your being. Big breath in. Big breath out. And then I want you to ask yourself, what is the one thing you truly desire in this moment? What is the one thing you truly desire in this moment? What is that thing? Let yourself dream big. What's the one thing that will bring you peace? And then write it down. Whenever you feel ready, open your eyes and just write it down. Take a moment or two to write down what that is for you. And then I invite you to reflect. How often do you ignore or suppress your true desires in favor of shoulds or external expectations? How often do you ignore or suppress your true desires? Big breath in, big breath out. All right, moving on to the next exercise, reclaiming your power. All right, so where in your life are you trying to control outcomes, if any? Where in your life are you trying to control outcomes? And it may be your entire life, but just write a few, few sentences down around that. Where in your life, often some of us can be, spiritual, whether you believe in God, Goddess, Jesus, Buddha, Gaia, Mother Earth, whatever the thing is, right? Whatever that essence that is, you are that, and it's this greater, larger presence, that, yeah, you trust God, you trust, the universe, except for with this one thing, right? Like where are you not trusting that space? And then I ask you, what would it feel like to release that control and trust that all is working out in your favor? What would that feel like? If you didn't have to be so controlling with everything in your world, if you just trust that everything that was happening in your world was exactly as it could be and should be, right? And so write one step that you can take to release control in that area of your life. If anything comes up, and it's okay if it doesn't, one step. And then moving on to exercise number 4, trusting yourself. When was the last time you trusted your instincts and your inner knowing? Unequivocally, right? Like it was just like, nope, I absolutely know that this is the right thing, even though everybody else around you was saying something else, your family, your friends, right? The media. When was the last time you truly trusted yourself? And how often do you do that? And then I also want you to reflect on, was there ever a time that you ignored your intuition, that you didn't trust yourself, and it didn't go so well? And then if you'd like to write a way that you can start listening to and trusting yourself daily. If something comes up for you, it's okay if it doesn't. Trusting yourself. And then exercise number 5, how would it feel to fully trust yourself and the universe? So I'm going to invite you into a very powerful meditation, and it's about stepping into your future self. So once again, I invite you to either lay down or sitting up nice and tall in a chair, just making sure that the spine is long, right? Open the chest, roll the shoulders back and down, close your eyes if that feels safe for you. Maybe let your palms face up, relax your shoulders, and take a few long, slow, deep breaths. Breathe in and breathe out. Then I want you to imagine that you're watching yourself on the big screen. So like you're in a movie theater, you're in the chair, you're in the audience, and you can see yourself on the big screen. You're watching yourself. And then I want you to just take a moment to think about the thing or things that are not serving you, right? Your behaviors, maybe it's constant worry or fear or anxiety or, binge eating, binge watching, biting your fingernails, right? Being really nervous and not being very happy, maybe drinking a little too much wine, all of those things. And then I want you to fast forward. I want you to fast forward, right, to a space where it's the new improved you. Stepping into your future self. We'll call it the 2.0 version, the new and improved you. And what do you look like? Notice, right? You're smiling, you're happy. Maybe you've lost some weight, depending on whatever the thing is. Maybe if you were, wanting to manifest a partner, you're in, your partner is there and you're interacting and you're so relaxed and joyful. So whatever the stage is, maybe you're at work and you're in a new job, a whole thing, something you never ever thought you'd be doing, but it's something you love so much. It's such a passion of yours, and you're actually making good money at it. And just watch yourself for a few minutes, right? Imagine, see, or feel yourself in that future state, looking confident, feeling strong, not a care in the world. Maybe you're in the mountains, maybe you're at the beach, and you're loving your life so much that you don't even need to go on a vacation, because every day is like Saturday for you. You feel supported, you feel loved. If you've got issues with money, maybe you look at your bank account and you see, whoa, ka-ching, look at that. Stepping into your future self. So just taking the next minute or so to just continue creating your own reality of your future self, stepping into that powerful space, jumping timelines. Happy, healthy, holy you. You are blessed. You are loved. You are supported. You have a whole support system, whether it be girlfriends or surrounded by family, community and people who love you. So good. And then whenever it feels right, you can open your eyes, you can come back and maybe take a few notes on your paper or in your journal. How did that feel? And again, you feel free to pause this. If you're watching the replay, you can pause it for a moment and spend a little more time here if you'd like. So I'm sure you're asking, Victoria, so okay, I'm noticing some cycles. I'm noticing some, the loop that I'm in around trauma or addiction and control. So now what do I do? So presence is key, right? Stepping into that space of being conscious in your day-to-day. So important. Number one, recognize the patterns and the awareness. And I'm going to tell you this. This is why having a coach, it's like someone like myself working with you, a healer, on this information, because sometimes we are in so much of the unresolved trauma sits in our shadow, right? So imagine the shadow. It's sort of like the space below the glacier, right? It's the Pandora's box that you might have stuck something down when you were 4 years old or 7 years old and you never thought about it again, but it's still sitting in our field, right? It's like issues in our tissues. If you're not sure, if you want to research more about that, Dr. Bradley Nelson, the emotion code. It's one of the tools that I use with my clients, four-legged and two-legged, to release trapped emotions. So recognizing the patterns and the awareness. So what is it that you're not looking at? What is it that you're not willing to look at? That you're doing this like la 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 la, right? Or you're kind of like looking the other way, like my dog doesn't like, when we have to give him this supplement medicine in the liquid, right? He turns away. He's like, I don't want that. Right? What are you not willing to look at? What habit or pattern or addiction are you not willing to look at? That if you were willing to look at, would change your entire freaking life, right? So write it down, recognize the patterns. What's your awareness? What's showing up for you here and now? Write it down. Again, you can pause anytime if you're watching the replay. Number 2, reconnect with your inner self. This is getting into a grounding and presence practice every day, right? Learning how to feel safe in your body, learning how to be present, the art of mindfulness with everything that's showing up around you without judgment. Number 3, replace external validation with self-trust practices. Again, we're going to talk a little bit more about that in my future 40-day program. And then number 4, release control and embrace flow, right? That's the ultimate outcome that we want. We want to kind of break those chains, right, of the trauma and addiction cycle and step into that trusting and surrendering place. Doesn't that feel wonderful? Okay, so what's next? You made it with me towards the end. So we're going to move into my irresistible offer for you that I'm so excited that I've created, and so excited to tell you about. Feel free to take a screenshot of this. So the Freedom Blueprint, this is going to be my very first time teaching this specific program for you, right? So it's a 40-day journey to break the trauma, control, addiction cycle and activate your sovereign divinity. Great news is it doesn't begin until Saturday, January 11th, 2025. So no excuses about, oh, this isn't a good time, the holidays, blah, 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 right? So in 40 days, participants will experience foundational shifts and progress toward breaking free from addiction, control, and trauma cycles, as I had said. So the program lays the groundwork for long-term healing and sovereignty. My jam is about getting to the root cause, right? There's no Band-Aids in this program. It is an introduction to the work, but the great thing about this program is all of the sessions are recorded. They go into a portal which you will have lifetime access to. So you can go at your own pace to any of this, or you can obviously join me for the live calls, which will be great too. So long-term healing and sovereignty, and it helps participants take tangible first steps towards breaking free and thriving, setting you up for continued growth beyond the 40 days. Right? And then here are a little bit more details. Again, feel free to take a picture. So by the end of the program, so these are some of the things that, so I'm putting together a 40-day program. So we know that in order to cultivate change, we actually have to do things differently. And we have to choose things differently, right? Over and over and over again. And it takes a good, really 30 to 40 days before something even begins to become a new habit. The truth is it's actually 90 days. But again, this will be a really good jump start to kind of get you motivated and moving and start to look at, the one thing, the one habit, behavior, addiction that you're looking to break up with, right? So here are some of the great, so these are basically the features. There'll be 9 90-minute live online sessions. We will meet every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, and then every other Saturday. The Saturdays will be more of the practical stuff, where we'll do breath work, we'll do some yoga, we'll do some mantra, we'll do some qigong. I'll be incorporating the somatic movement practices to really heal, because truly you can't heal your mind without involving the body. I mean, that's truly the way it goes. So there'll be weekly guided exercises, there'll be journaling prompts and rituals. I will support you in creating a personalized daily ritual to support your breakthrough. There'll be a private online community, and then each Tuesday night session, I will offer Q&A at the end along with group coaching. So if you need support live and in person. Again, it's a no-brainer. It really is. For those of you who have been wanting to work with me privately, but you haven't been able to quote unquote afford it, this program is $555. However, because it is my beta program, and I'm running this program, the Freedom Blueprint, for the first time, I'm inviting a small number of founding members to join me for, oh my goodness, only $277, right? And even if that is too much, I will allow you 2 payments of $155. So it sounds like a no-brainer, right? I mean, come on, let's jump. January is a great time to set new habits and patterns and really set yourself up for 2025 to make it a good year. So if you have any questions or comments, please, email me at transform@victoriahafer.com. So there it is, my friends. Hopefully you made it to the end. If you made it to the end, I know that you're here for a reason and you didn't come into my field by accident. So hopefully 2025 is your year to break the chains, right, on everything that's binding you, and for you to truly step into your true freedom and your sovereign divinity. I thank you so much for joining. And I hope to see you in the Freedom Blueprint.